You are live on 98.9 Northwest FM. This is the Tuesday Review. I am Nathan, as always joined by James. How you going, James? What's something's made you happy in the last week?
Oh, it was my Nonna's 86th birthday on Sunday.
Happy birthday,
Good
Nonna.
effort,
Yeah,
Nonna.
shout out Nonna. And so we had like a little family dinner, so pizza and some cake, and it was nice.
Nice. Also joined by Callum. How you going, Callum? What's something's made you happy this week?
Recently got a Kobo e-reader. That made me happy because I can read again without straining my eyesight.
Mm.
Because the light is it adjusts to the time of the day and whatnot.
Mm.
So yeah,
It's probably good weight as well. Like you don't have to carry a big heavy book.
Yeah, and you can get thousands of books on there too.
Mm.
Your collection always with you. We're not sponsored by Kobo.
We could be.
Yeah, hit us up, Kobo.
Depending on who's listening.
As for me, something's made me happy this week. I've been playing with my cat recently, Rosie, so she's made me happy this
Oh,
week.
that's nice. Shout out Rosie.
Yeah, shout out to Rosie. She's a good girl. Yeah, she does the whole thing. Even though she's an adult cat, she does those kind of kitten mannerisms when she throws up her paws and she's like,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
screaming at the void. It's very funny. Yeah,
Shakes her
she like
arms.
shakes her arms around like, damn this soccer ball that I
Like
play
the-
with. Yeah,
The Tuscan Raiders and
Yeah.
Star Wars.
yeah. It's like, that makes me happy. Anyway, moving on. It's a packed show this week. I guess we'll start with some of the films we've been watching. Who wants to start?
Should I do Final Destination
Yeah,
first?
let's-
Get out of the way.
Yeah, let's do Final Destination first.
Okay, so this is a movie we've been talking about for a while because Callum and then me and then Nathan all watched the original movies in the lead up to the new one that just came out this year. That just came out this week, or last week. Final Destination Bloodlines. You lamos couldn't make it to the movie, so
to be fair, there's been a lot of sickness.
No,
going
I
around.
know. But yeah, so I went to see it with friend of the show, Rafal, who's also a fan of the original franchise. And it's been 14 years since the last installment, which was Final Destination 5 in 2011. And, for a horror sequel / reboot cool, for a horror franchise, early 2000s horror franchise, it's, can be a bit wary of like, oh, is this going to be really bad? But the word of mouth was quite good. The reviews coming out were quite good. And I really ended up really enjoying it. I thought it was really good. I think the pacing was really good. The characters were really good. It was funny. And also there was some nice sort of lore and, playing with the rules of how death works in these movies.
So we actually got a little bit.
Just a bit.
Just a bit.
Yeah. So it was good. I think it was also good because if you haven't seen any of the Final Destination movies, I think you can watch this one and enjoy it. So it's a good reboot in that way. But if you're a fan like me and you've seen the other ones, it's got lots of callbacks, references.
It's not full of member berries though.
No, exactly. So it helps if you've seen the other ones because you get more out of it. But it's not a movie that stops every 5 seconds and goes, remember this, remember that.
Remember the logs.
Yeah. Oh, that there's a couple of those, but yeah, but not. It's not excessive and it's not insulting.
Remember
and so
sunbed.
yeah, and so it's not. Yeah, it's better than a lot of these rebootquels and remakes and horror, sequels and all that, legacy sequels. And yeah, I think if you're a newcomer, you can just start with this one, and I think you'll enjoy it, especially if you like, horror movies and gore and stuff. The kills were pretty good. They did enough different from the other movies, and they also did enough of like, the tension and the build up and the Rube Goldberg machine of like this hits this and then and you're like you keep expecting it to kill the person, but then oh no they get it and then so it's actually something else that. So I think those
the trombone
were good.
scares the bird, but the bird doesn't set off the trap.
Yeah.
The bird annoys someone else who then sets off a trap down the street.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that, and it was a good balance of like the fun of the horror kill and also the kind of gruesomeness. And like I said, like the characters, like I kind of cared about their relationship, and they were kind of funny. So you got this good balance of horror comedy.
My big thing about these films, though, regarding the kills specifically, is how is the CG versus practical?
That was my next point. Thank you very much, Nathan. Too much CGI. So I enjoyed the movie overall, but I think what held it back most was that even though the kills were good and gruesome and gory and fun, most of the gore, there's some practical elements, but there's a lot of CG, and it's quote unquote good CGI, but it's still, you can easily tell, and it takes away it takes away a lot of the impact.
Is it also just unnecessary CG?
Yeah, because we've talked about this before. It's like you should only use CG if you really have to, and we know gore effects can be done very, very effectively with practical. Exactly, yeah. And that's a recent movie. It's not like we're talking about 70s, 80s,
relatively
90s
low
movies.
budget, at least low budget compared to this movie.
So I think I understand there are moments in this movie where buildings collapse and, vehicles crash. And I understand for a quote unquote lower budget horror movie, even though it's not a low budget movie, it's maybe lower budget than some other
low budget studio film.
Relatively, I can understand like the building and the vehicles and stuff using CGI for those moments. But when it comes to just a person getting crushed or stabbed in the head or whatever, that should be all practical, especially like for big horror fans who have always been calling for this and always want this and are always disappointed in CG used for blood and gore and stuff like that. It's disappointing. I think overall, like I said, the kills were still good, but I think it takes away a lot from I think this movie could have been great if the kills were...
It was all practical.
Or at least the gore was more practical, and then everything outside of that, okay, you can have a little bit of leeway because it's not $200 million. But that was the biggest drawback for me. And also, like most modern movies, the cinematography during the night scenes and dark scenes can be quite dark, to the point where I was like kind of straining my eyes and be like, come on, man, like just it's a movie. Light the scene a little bit like they used to. We've talked about it before.
When you look at old movies, and sometimes the scene will be lit, but there'd be you wouldn't be able to tell where it's being lit from. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, because it's as a movie. Like, it's movie darkness.
Yeah, that's right, movie
but
darkness. But
also, we've talked about before many times where it's like, you can tell it's dark. You can tell it's nighttime, or you can tell it's supposed to be pitch black in those old movies. Yeah. But everything that needs to be seen or highlighted is still... able to be seen. Whereas now it's just they just shoot a very flat, digital, ugly. Everything's super dark.
I recently rewatched American Graffiti, which is almost entirely set during one evening. And yet everything on screen, you can tell exactly where everyone is, what they're doing. Yeah. Everything. And it's like,
I mean, that helps because you got the street lights and the car lights and stuff.
Yeah, but that's how you light nighttime scenes.
Yeah, but I'm just talking about like, there are certain scenes where it's nighttime or in a dark basement or whatever, where, okay, the light, maybe there won't be a lot of light, or a forest scene or whatever. But they used to make movies all the time set in super dark locations. You could still tell what was going on.
I think it's a larger problem.
It's the whole industry. It's not even this movie. And most of the movie was shot well and edited well. And like I said, it was paced well and written well. And that's why I think overall it was good. And I enjoyed it. And I wasn't, because I was definitely... There were moments where I was like, damn, I wish that could have been better. But overall, I really enjoyed it. So I think it's definitely worth checking out. I think you guys will like it. I think the first two are still the best. But I think this might be the third best one.
Ooh. Okay. That's an endorsement.
Yeah, and also shout out to Tony Todd, who was a big staple of the franchise, and this was his final film. So that was a good send off.
Good film to go out into.
Horror
exactly.
Icon, yeah.
So when the movie finished, I was glad this was his send off because he is such a horror icon and movie icon, and it was also a good movie. So. When his character gets to say goodbye, and we get to see him
ad-libbed as well. His monologue was
really?
Yeah, they just asked him to speak from the heart, and he did.
I didn't know that. Makes it even
so it's
more
more
special.
authentic,
more
if that
poignant.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So yeah, and the movie's doing really well. Apparently, it's got like the biggest opening of all the franchise. So
The children,
The children
yearn for horror movies.
yeah,
The
well,
children-
it's
yeah.
also the perfect age of like millennials who grew up in early 2000s who are like, oh, Final Destination, and also all you need is like good kills. So you don't really need anything else.
The children yearn for a
The
what is-
logs.
no,
They dream.
yeah,
The
yeah.
nightmares of the logs never went
The
away.
children yearn for the non-elevated horror.
Yeah.
That's so before the show,
Well-
I was talking to Nathan real quick. I was like, I really like to Talk to Me, but that was a movie that was about drugs. I'm like,
No, it was about vices and grief.
yeah.
Also, Talk to Me, I think is
No, but I was
10
just
out of-
painting with a
11 out
broad.
of 10.
I'm painting with
Yeah,
a really
yeah.
broad brush,
yeah.
and I really like that movie. But I'm like, I'm hoping that Bring Her Back, the director's next film, which comes out this week, is this going to be a straight up horror film?
Well, I think that has elements of the grief as well, and but
it's
yeah,
an Australian horror movie, so of course it does.
yeah, but I think it's just because elevated horror became such a staple and so popular, it oversaturated, and we're all like kind of okay,
Yeah.
whatever. And even when a movie like Until Dawn, where it was just like this should just be fun,
Yeah.
and then there's this whole thing about the grief, and I was just like that was tacked
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
But if you do it well, like Talk to Me
Oh,
or
yeah,
some of
course.
those movies,
A well-made movie's still a well-made
yeah,
movie.
exactly. But yeah, sometimes you just want the slasher or the
Yeah.
disaster kill
That's
or
it.
whatever. Yeah, so good movie. I'd hope they make another one. I think these horror movie franchises can go forever. So
I think especially something like Final Destination, where it's kind of an evergreen franchise anyway, because it's not
Yeah.
like you're not following a specific killer. You're just watching people fight
Exactly.
fate.
And I think we talked about it when we talked about the original movies. Is like there's so much lore and stuff that they just haven't explored, and we get a little bit in this movie, but there's still more you could bring in. Without ruining the whole thing by trying to explain it all.
Because like the whole thing is like death is only really visually encapsulated in the previous films by like a gust of wind.
Yeah.
Or like
Yeah.
like that's kind of just like it, right? Like
Yeah.
some wind comes in and characters.
But it's like we might not want
Yeah.
an actual personification of death,
no.
but it would be like, it would be
Yeah,
cool to have
but-
some more lore.
Yeah, but it's like it's not
And-
like they have an aging actor, and we have to worry
Yeah,
about.
yeah. And also, the good thing about this movie is they do play with a bit of that as well. It's like some of the rules and the lore, like you get a bit more of it and how they subvert it and whatever. So that's good. So yeah, as long as they got decent enough writers and editors, like they can make movies, and as long as you can come up with good kills,
Yeah.
I'd be up for another one.
And I guess we could segue to something that's quite the opposite of elevated horror. The new Fear Street movie came out, and
Yeah.
what's the opposite of elevated horror?
Just
Well,
schlock.
Yeah.
Slop.
It's straight to streaming slop. But yeah, I think
So let's hold on. So we're talking specifically about Fear Street Prom Queen.
yes.
Now Fear Street is what it was like a young adult kind of teenage
R.L.
book
Stine.
franchise. by
R.L. Stine, who wrote the Goosebumps books, which were for quote-unquote kids, he also had a series of Fear Street books
like teens.
For like teens, yeah.
And this is a series of films. There's 4 now.
Yeah.
There's the original trilogy of Fear Street films.
That came out a couple years
that
ago.
came out, and they had kind of like a loosely connected story through 3 separate kind of
Time,
eras.
yeah, there was 2-3 time periods,
Yeah.
and they're all connected, yeah.
And this is like a spin-off called Fear Street Prom Queen that's mostly unrelated.
Yeah.
I think it shares a town. That's it.
Yeah, it
That's
shares,
it. It's
it
in
shares
the-
the town,
Shadysville.
but the events are not connected to
Yeah,
the events
yeah,
of
yeah.
the first trilogy.
Yeah.
Now, I really enjoyed that
could have been
original
a-
trilogy.
It could have been a pickup script, right? Like they could have just.
I think it was based on one of the Fear Street books, but it is a standalone story, and yet easily like this has nothing to do with
No.
anything. Like you could,
But the original trilogy, I recommend people go watch them because I thought they were pretty good.
They're
I had a fun
enjoyable.
time. Yeah.
Yeah,
they
right,
also suffer from CGI and other
I mean,
problems.
yeah, but
But-
again, it's a Netflix movie. You're not
Yeah,
gonna escape
yeah,
that
but I like
necessarily.
the time periods and the different characters and the way it was connected, and yeah, they were enjoyable.
They were fun.
yeah,
This, however, is probably the weakest.
100%.
easy.
And it's just a standard prom queen kind of prom night slasher story where the kids get murdered one after the other when they're not on the dance floor.
Yeah, the original Fear Street trilogy, at least it had like different time periods and the sort of
It was trying to do
connected.
something different.
Yeah, this one has nothing going for it. Prom Queen is the standard cookie cutter
I-
slasher.
it's still fun. I did like. There's one specific standout for me, and no spoilers, but there's a scene where a guy tries to open the door, but due to injuries, he couldn't open the door.
Yeah, I knew you were going to say that one. Yeah,
that was probably my favorite.
Yeah.
I just it had some humor in it. That scene.
Yeah, I think one of my problems with Prom Queen was like the humor, like the movie wasn't really funny, and then some of the kills like those, it's like they were trying to play it up for laughs, but the rest of the movie was so flat.
Yeah,
you know.
The costume design was okay.
So it's set in the 80s.
Yeah, so I kind of like that vibe.
Yeah, I mean, it's very, it doesn't really need to be in the 80s. There's your typical soundtrack of your hit songs.
80s hits, yeah.
Yeah, and you've got some big hair and shoulder pads or whatever. But other than that, it's like nothing really.
Look, I managed to watch the whole thing. I got through it.
Yeah. I wasn't mad at it.
No, but that's what
Which there are some bad movies where I was like, that was so crap. I was just kind of like,
the script
not good.
Is awful.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry to whoever wrote the screenplay, but it's just awful. So it's irredeemable. Yeah. Is what I put in my Letterboxd review. So it is what it is. The film, I can feel the love in it because it is not a terrible film. Like, when I watched it, I enjoyed it. I use the word enjoy loosely. When I watched it, I tolerated it, and I was not worse off for having seen it. Do you know what I mean?
But in saying that, I would never watch this again.
It's a one and done. Yeah. But
I think another problem.
If the script was better, it would have been a much better film. I don't think it wasn't the director who was the sole problem. It wasn't the editor who was the sole problem. You know what I mean? Like,
I think a big part of it is the Netflix model, is the digital, the digital cinematography, very ugly and flat. Yeah. It wasn't a very good looking movie.
Do Netflix still enforce that people use their red cameras, or is that a thing of the past now? Because they tried that at one point, right? They wanted everything to be uniform.
I feel like they still do it because most of the shows and movies all look and sound the same.
Because that was a thing, right?
Yeah, but I think there are some exceptions.
I feel like that shouldn't be a rule anyway. Because like, if you want things to feel unique, but like I see the argument for everyone, like, I want people to know it's a Netflix thing when they're watching it.
But that's stupid.
It's stupid because it just reduces.
It's part of the problem we've been talking about a lot, is the whole like second screen movie. Yeah. The digital slop, it's like they just got to churn out content for their streaming service, and they got to keep people engaged on their service. And one of the ways they do that, apparently, is by
everything needs to feel the same.
Everything looks and sounds the same, and everything runs into each other. And also, apparently, when they make original content for the platform, they make it so everyone just talks out loud and says what they're doing, and so that if you're not paying attention and you're on your phone,
you're not going to miss too much.
You don't miss any, which is as much as we carry on, it's the death of film and television.
Look, we'll talk a bit later on how there's some exceptions to this rule.
I do want to say though, like I didn't think it looked that bad. But I think we do have a problem of visual homogeneity.
Yeah.
You don't want everything to look too homogenous, right? Yeah. So it's insane to me that they force everyone to use red cameras, because isn't the beauty of film that like like you can watch a movie and it'll like Heat looks nothing like Collateral. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, and that's the same filmmaker. I mean,
yeah, but that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah, I mean, but it should be about it.
It should be up to a filmmaker to decide how their movie looks and feels, because that's a part of the filmmaking process.
Yeah, but I think also, as we've discussed on the shows, because of like Final Destination wasn't straight to streaming; it was a cinema release, but that it also suffers from the trends of the digital filmmaking and the flat color grading.
It's all related.
Yeah, so it's like, even when they make a movie that's maybe not strictly,
it's now what people expect.
Yeah, exactly.
They expect the movie to look this way.
Yeah, and it's sad because now all movies look and sound the same, and they all mostly look and sound terrible.
Unless you're Steven Soderbergh, he's had a couple interesting different looking movies.
Well, that's the thing, is you've still got your exceptions. You've still got your Nolans and your whoever's, but it's a shame, especially like I can understand if it's on Netflix, but when it's not meant for a streaming service, and it's like, you got to do better, because but people are still going out to the movies. We talked for years about what's COVID going to mean for the death of cinema and streaming and stuff. But there have been good movies coming out. So and there are good movies still to come out. So it's not all doom and gloom. But in terms of Prom Queen,
did you hear? Just a quick tangent here. Did you hear the Phoenician Scheme got apparently very derisive reviews and got booed hard?
I'm so excited. That just makes it even more
that's because
interesting.
Wes has a very bad reputation at Cannes.
I mean,
that means we're gonna love
they're all
it.
a bunch of snooty.
I've seen a meme. I've seen a meme where some guy complains. It's like that guy on the bus where it's like one's happy, one's sad.
Yeah.
I saw a meme about Wes Anderson where the guy looks really sad. He's like, all Wes Anderson movies look the same, and then the guy's like smiling. He's like, all Wes Anderson movies look the same. So that's why I'm kind of excited.
Also,
the more hate people give Wes Anderson, the more excited we're going to get.
Yeah, also Ari Aster's new movie Eddington got like really...
But that's par for the course, isn't it?
but I'm like, ooh, does that mean it's actually going to be really freaking good?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. No, I'm excited to watch a lot of those movies coming out of Cannes. But yeah, Prom Queen is just... It's not the worst movie, but it is very standard, safe, flat, kind of bland, slasher movie. Mostly made for probably teens to chuck on while they're on their phone or doing something else in the room, which is a shame because
Christian core, yeah.
I think it's also
Afro Christian.
Yeah, exactly.
Not the religion.
Not the religion. Yeah. Silent producer Christian is someone who would
notorious
be on his phone and just have something on for background noise, which it's again like you said,
he pays to go to the movies for that experience.
Or but a lot of these. This is what remember we were talking about recently. It's like there's actual movies and shows, and then there's content.
Yeah.
And I think unfortunately, even though people probably worked hard on Prom Queen, it's more on the content side of like they had the Fear Street thing going on. They needed something else to put out.
Yeah, the screenplay feels to
very
me like
low
Netflix
effort.
is like, here's what we want.
The kills mostly are very low effort. There's a lot of CGI blood, ugly. It's not, the killer's not anything new. There wasn't absolutely nothing we haven't seen before.
No, there was nothing original. Yeah.
Yeah. I will say one positive. I liked all the cast. I thought they were all great.
Yeah, they were.
All the kids, all the teachers, all the parents. I thought
I did like how it's like the principal is like the one not in control. It's like the other lady.
Well, the vice principal. Well, that kind of happened at our school. Remember, the vice principal was the hard ass, and the principal was like, "Oh, hello, everyone." Yeah. Which I feel like there might be a lot of places.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Yeah, but there was just so
He's
many.
He's the fall guy. The principal's the fall guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like the CEO of a company.
Yeah. he's just there to attend meetings and shake hands and kiss babies. Yeah.
Yeah, but I liked all the cast. With better material, I think this could have been great with the same actors because I think they all did a really good job.
We're now joined by Alan. How you going, Alan? What's something that's made you happy this week?
I'm doing all right. Something that's made me happy this week is reading or listening to. What?
Rocket League.
Yeah, having a few wins on Rocket League.
No, but what really made you happy, Mr. Deep?
I'm listening to Stephen King's It.
Nice.
And look, I enjoy the movies quite a lot, but I very much like the book dynamic of you having we'll call it past and present together.
It's like the whole history of the town. It's a huge book.
It is almost a quintessential Stephen King kind of story. It's all of his tropes. It's got the kids and the trauma, and then overcoming that as an adult, and all of the kind of classic.
His weird obsession with people's nipples, you know.
Yeah, that's it.
Even he always talks about like he wrote Stand By Me, as a practice run for it. Because so a lot of his works were leading up to that big story. So that was his original opus.
Yeah.
And of course, The Dark Tower is his actual masterpiece. But in terms of the standalone, we don't talk about Dark Tower.
Before we get into it, we might go to a very quick break, and we'll be back with more right after these quick messages. You are back on the Tuesday Review, live on 98.9 Northwest FM. Alan was continuing his journey through it.
Yeah, like I said, obviously, as things are described by the author versus how things portrayed in the film.
Yeah.
Right, there's always difference. You got the hilariousness of, you've got Ben, who was the chubby kid in the early days, and just the description of his fat ass jiggling like a girl's in his blue jeans.
Jeez.
We've all been there.
And
I mean, I'm not defending it. But you just got to remember the mountain of drugs that Stephen King was doing when he was writing this book as well.
Just the
Not necessarily this one.
just the description of this poor like 4th grade kid or 5th grade kid.
I don't know, when did it come out? Was it in the 80s?
Just
it was.
He's doing
Yeah,
it
it
like,
would have been in the 80s.
he's
Yeah.
specifically
But
describing.
the famous drug period was around the time of Cujo, so if it was around that time, then
He's
probably.
he's
Well-
specifically describing how, because obviously the kid's chunky, his thighs are rubbing and the jeans are making the sound, and
Yeah.
just I'm like, how much do you hate this poor kid?
give the kid a break. Yeah. No.
But he becomes a Chad. It's fine.
I mean, I hope he was on drugs while he was writing this because it has the infamous
The scene at the
Listen,
end.
listen.
scene later on.
He's defended that to death, and like he doesn't regret it. But I think that if he could change it now, he would.
Yeah.
But it's the defense that he gave it, which made me sympathize with him a little bit, is that he claims that when he was looking for a way to force the children to become adults, the defining change in like psychology of kids is their understanding of sex. What turns an adolescent into a mature person is like, you know, that kind of original sin of discovering sex. He went about it in probably the wrong way.
Yeah. He could have done it in a
If
better
he ever
way.
gets cancelled, that's like one of the first things that
I
we're like,
just-
I knew it ever since I read that.
I mean,
book."
the man stood the test of time.
No, no, that's he messed up in one of his books, and how many books has he got?
Yeah.
So it's like,
He
yeah, it's
also
not
messed
like
up the Dark Tower, in my opinion.
Although he
Oh,
also had
yeah,
that,
but
he also had
that's
that
a
book.
karmic issue, not like a cancelling one.
I'll say he's also messed up in 2 of his books because he just straight up withdrew one from publication. Rage.
Oh, the school
Oh,
shooting.
school
no,
one.
shooter
but
book.
he didn't mess
That
up in
was-
that. That was before.
Yeah, but
Nah.
That was
That-
he didn't want to contribute. I
No,
guess.
and-
He also stopped publishing it after Columbine.
Yeah.
So it wasn't that he messed up. It was that he wrote a book that was too prescient, and then
and maybe a little glamorizing.
it was a horror movie. It was a horror
Yeah.
book.
But I think kids, you know, they were taking the wrong messages.
well-
But that's a different conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anywho, there's the new TV show coming out about the history of the town in It, which will probably flesh out a lot of the stuff that we never saw in the movies.
Derry,
because
Maine.
yeah,
Yes.
because in the movies they cut out a lot of the backstory and town stuff because it's just too long.
Too much. Yeah.
So the series will probably do that.
I tell you what, though, from his book writing and everything else, if I lived in the States, I can imagine myself living in the New England area.
Yeah,
Oh.
that's it.
Just like
Fantastic
that is just
weather.
where I'd
No,
live.
It is a lovely part of the world
Yeah.
from like what you've seen on TV, movies and stuff. Like it's just the nature is lovely.
Yeah.
We'd just wear flannel and
My cars
pretend
would
to be
rust out, but
lumberjacks.
it'd be fine.
Yeah. Anyway, let's move on. We're running out of time. We're packed show tonight. So another movie we'll talk about quickly we watched was The Fountain of Youth, the new Guy Ritchie film on Apple Plus.
yeah.
Talk about movies to play on your phone.
That's what I
Are
was
you watching?
exactly going to say. This is the premium example of second screen content.
I went into this movie expecting big things because Guy Ritchie, we all like Guy Ritchie.
But he makes 2 movies a year and none of them have been good for 15 years.
Since the gentleman was good.
The Gentleman was good, yeah.
Was it also him that did The Nice Guys?
No, that was Shane Black.
Yes, that's Shane Black. Never mind.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's an Indiana Jones kind of premise, right? It's let's find the Fountain of Youth,
National
national treasure, the mythical fountain that kind of heals all wounds, traumas, gives you untold power, etc., etc., etc. And he's racing against time against an organization that seeks to protect such secrets.
Travel around the world.
Yeah, and to
find
also
all
evade the
clues.
popo. So it's one of those kind of. It's almost like a chase film in a way because they're always getting chased by
Trying to stay one step ahead.
multiple factions trying to catch them as they uncover these secrets.
Mm.
It looks nice. I had lots of problems with the script though. I thought the script was dog shit. Like it's just full of just like zingers and one-liners, and there's no real meat for me.
I've heard. So you guys watch this. I didn't watch this because I knew I wouldn't like it, and it was typical, straight to streaming, filler content. I've heard there's no chemistry between any of the characters, and it's all exposition and second screen. Like we're saying what we're doing now. Ha ha ha.
A little bit. I personally think there was some great chemistry between John Krasinski's Luke and Natalie Portman's. I'm blanking on the character's name. Charlotte. Yeah, I thought there was chemistry between them. I thought they were great.
They had reasonable sibling energy.
Yeah.
Particularly the part where maybe it just hit home for me because of personal things. Charlotte says to Luke, "The only thing we had in common was Dad. Now Dad said, I guess we have nothing in common." And it's very much been
dark. Okay,
it's very much been a conversation between me and my sister that we're not going to associate with each other once our parents die.
Yeah.
So it's like, you know what? I can recognize that chemistry. I really can. It's real.
And also, Domhnall Glover was good at
Domhnall Gleeson.
Donald Gleeson, yeah. He's good.
Was good in this. I liked him.
He
His
was-
accent was fine as well.
Yeah, because he was an Irishman playing an Irishman.
Yeah, he's fine.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
He's Brendan Gleeson's son.
Yeah, no. Every time I see him in a film, he's putting on an American accent. So it's like, to be fair to me,
No, I like Stanley Tucci the best in this movie, and he's only in it for one scene.
I don't know what
he's trying to be. Is he trying to be Italian? Is he not trying to be Italian?
I laugh at this.
He's Tucci, he's Italian, but like, is he trying to be like
I laugh.
Italian or like American Italian in Italy?
I think he's being an American Italian in Italy or an American in Italy because he's like a cardinal or a priest or something. And I laughed and I'm like, I'm wondering if they just recorded like a 30-second scene with him while he was filming Conclave. And then they're just like, sweet.
Because like, again, from my experience with Tucci, like, I'm like, is he putting on a bit of a molto bene, the gabagool, or is he not? Because it was half there. And maybe I'm the accent man, maybe it's my
I don't know.
cross to
You
bear.
do have a...
But it was weird. I'm like,
I didn't notice
Are
it.
you the gabagool or you're not the gabagool? Like, I gotta, like, if you're representing the Vatican, it is the gabagool. I don't know. Like, I give that film a 3. And Callum wanted me to be not the arbiter, but the middleman in the
because
situation.
Nathan didn't particularly like it. I liked it a lot. So I was like, we need a third party to be like
and I refused to watch it because I knew it was going to suck.
Yeah.
And it's also a movie, I would like to make fun of Nathan for watching these straight-to-streaming, like, content movies. Because as soon as I see that they come out, I know he's going to watch them. And this one was like, as soon as it came out, I saw it on your Letterboxd. But even Nathan was like, oh, it's not that good. So when Callum was like, it's actually really good, I was like, what the heck?
Look, I appreciate the globetrotting and the adventure and some of the action is good, but as I put in my review on Letterboxd, it's a 3.5-star adventure with a 1.5-star script. I had a lot of problems with the script. I thought it was very, as you said, very kind of second screen. It was very fake.
Yeah.
It was very just like every 20 seconds there's a zinger or a joke. And I'm just like, there's no real emotional depth.
Yeah, so the
outside of some scenes with Charlotte and Luke. Like
the script isn't great. When I saw it, I can't remember if I said it to Nathan or Alan. I said, it's kind of like a video game script. Where it's like, here's the goal of the area. Once we get the goal of the area, we move on to the next location.
Yeah, but were you eating popcorn when you were watching this movie?
I was.
That's an extra star for Callum.
Oh, that's why it was so
popcorn
high.
star.
Yeah.
Well, I wasn't.
That improves his mood for the movie.
But this is, like I said, in my defense of this film is, to me, it's a great example of a popcorn movie. I would have loved to see this in the theaters eating fresh popcorn. You know what I mean? Here's the way I look at it. I'll try and be quick. There's too much CG. And the CG that I did notice was pretty noticeable, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
The screenplay, yes, it's bad, but the fun is in the adventure that you see on the screen. The fun's in the car chases, which aren't the best. We just came hot off a Mission Impossible film. So,
Look, one thing I will give this film guaranteed is the Shelby Cobra chase.
Yes.
In London.
Awesome.
Just awesome. That is probably the best thing the movie had going for it.
Yeah. Also, trains in Asia.
Yeah.
Again,
it was Thailand, to be specific.
Checks my boxes.
Callum had some difficulty discerning which Asian country it was.
Yeah.
All trains look the same to him.
That's right. Why are you doing this?
Go on.
There was some cool gunfight stuff.
Yeah.
The hand-to-hand combat was poorly done. But it's just the vibe of the film was, this is a globe-trotting adventure to find treasure. I really digged on the vibe. We don't get that too often anymore, these kind of big globe movies.
Well, the last one didn't do that well. Uncharted was kind of a bit of a flop.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't even see that because that was a video game movie on top of yeah.
So I think that the movie has a lot going for it. It has a lot of locations. It's nice to see these locations on screen. Like I said, I was engaged the entire way through, and that's not just because the popcorn didn't last that long.
I'll give it that. Like, I also didn't find myself checking my watch to see how how long was left.
The chemistry between the two primary characters, Charlotte and Luke, Natalie Portman and John Krasinski, is great. The chemistry between Domhnall Gleeson and the others is fine. The chemistry between the child and the rest of the adults is great. The chemistry with the goons and the nemesis is, not particularly good, but they're there to be fodder. It is what it is. The stuff in the pyramids was good, CG heavy, but still quite interesting. Like I said, video game energy to me.
Yeah.
I would have loved to see this on the big screen. I'm hoping they do some kind of follow-up because I want to see like another one, just because while the script isn't particularly good, it's nice to see a movie that's about adventure. Literally, they mention it multiple times in the film. One of their taglines is, it's not about the reward, it's about the journey, which is what I think this film excels at, is going to locations and showing you things. Whether it's a car chase, whether it's an action sequence, whether it's there's an underwater sequence on a sub, and then a boat underwater where they go through a derelict ship to find a treasure in a locked room. You know what I mean? It's those kinds of really interesting things that this is like a D grade Mission Impossible film. They even have the squad with the computers on this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like a D grade, like not even a C grade, but it still has that adventurousness that I really want, which is why I gave it 4 stars and a heart, because I would watch it again.
Oh yeah, it filled something that was missing.
Yeah.
For you.
So like I can understand that. Yeah, we could have a whole dialogue about why it's bad. And I'm like, yeah, it's true. It's not particularly great for a guy, especially for Guy Ritchie, but I liked it.
Alrighty.
Fair enough. Yeah, like I'll just adding on what Callum put in. Look, there's positives to it. The issues I found were, because again, you've got the whole squad, like you said, in Mission Impossible. Laz Alonso and Carmen Echogo were two of the support characters. They were really wasted. They just weren't in it enough. And Isa Gonzalez, who's, I guess, a technically semi-antagonist in the film, there's chemistry between her and John Krasinski. But
that's a bit creepy in a way, though.
It's the problem I have is when you cast John Krasinski as your guy, who is visually the Giga Chad.
Yes.
And he's like having like this like struggle kind of flirt. I'm like, no, it's John Krasinski. He wins.
I mean, yes, but also the way they dealt with that was also kind of weird, because it came off in almost a little bit of a sex pesty way.
Yeah.
Man,
like she'll be threatening.
nah.
She'll be threatening, and he'll be like, "Is this when we kiss now?"
He does
I'm
talk
sorry.
his face.
Don't say sex bestie. When someone's trying to murder you, you're not doing a microaggression on them. Do you know what I mean?
But
Like,
also,
no.
like, again, if this is going to be a guy who's got to kind of work for his lovin', I'm going to say, trying to be PC about this, then it's got to be a guy that's more mid-tier. It's John Krasinski. He doesn't have to work for this.
That's
Man's got Emily Blunt, all right? He doesn't have to work for this. He's got it. Yeah. So that's what I found kind of funny. Overall,
it's the thing is like casting the most prettiest girl and then putting glasses on her, and everyone's like, "Oh my god, she's the ugliest girl in high school."
Yeah.
It's like, come on, we know.
Yeah. But overall, like I said, for me it was a 3.5. I'll be generous. I liked what it brought along, especially at the first half of the film.
Yeah.
It just kind of didn't get it there.
The first 45 minutes rocks.
Like the part in Thailand, the part in London.
Yeah.
It was pretty solid.
Yeah.
Further on, it got...
The last... Yeah, that's right. The back end lets it down. But the first half rocks.
Yeah.
So the Rehearsal Season 2 follows the tradition of the Rehearsal Season 1. So first off, it's on HBO.
Yeah.
Or Max in Australia. Soon to be HBO Max again.
Yeah.
In Australia, because,
Stupid
marketing
Saslo.
people have no idea.
Yeah.
And it follows Nathan's journey into helping people solve problems through rehearsing.
Yeah, Nathan Fielder who did Nathan For You.
Did you watch the first season of Rehearsal?
Yeah.
I think we...
That is the one where
he has his family.
Yeah, he has
the fake family.
So there's a new season.
That was such a
and
troubling
it
show.
deals with his challenges trying to solve a problem in the airline industry, or the
Aviation,
aviation industry. He's trying to help pilots learn to communicate better between like the lead pilot and the co-pilot. And 90% of all aviation issues are caused by miscommunication or lack of communication between the pilots on big jet planes.
So he wasn't actually dealing with a real airline in real life, right? Please tell me this.
No. So it's real pilots, but what he does is
He technically, he's not working for an airline, but he does work with real pilots.
Again, without going too deep into it, no. The short answer, no. Long answer, yes, but still no.
People gonna die.
No.
Well, the thing, what makes it so great is because it's the rehearsal. The whole thing is rehearsing. So he builds these sets. Do you remember in the original season he built the bar?
He built a replica.
The thing is
he
crashed
built
planes?
Like,
no.
Is my question.
He built an airline terminal.
Okay.
And then like he gets pilots in, and then he has a really advanced computer airplane set up.
Air simulator.
So he does all kinds of simulations, and then
obviously it gets more and more extreme as it goes on.
There's also a crazy subplot about a singing competition, and
what I appreciated about this is it's telling one cohesive narrative, right, or one cohesive story, because it's not all fact or fiction.
Okay.
So it's telling that one cohesive story about aviation as a whole. And then there's these little micro stories in each of the episode. Like Paramount, there's one Paramount Plus removed his episode on
one of the episodes
the Holocaust awareness brand that he makes called Summit Ice. Now you know of this brand here because we went through a Nathan for You phase, and this was amazing. And one of our goals in life is to have a Summit Ice jacket.
Hell yeah!
And Paramount removed this episode because of sensitivities due to October 7.
Man, did he inflict violence upon that company unknowing.
And in the show, he depicts Paramount Plus as Nazis, and this is a different network. And so, like, the man goes places.
Yeah, and Paramount had no idea this was happening because they weren't informed. So when the episode went live, they found out, as everyone else was watching it, that you see like Paramount people with like, instead of the swastikas on the armband, just the Paramount logo.
That was so funny.
And they're like goose stepping and stuff.
That was so funny.
So he does things in each episode that keep it interesting while telling that kind of overall arc of the
like
season.
the first season where he's trying to help people at the beginning rehearse things that they might have trouble with, and then it kind of morphs into him like having his own fake family.
Own fake epiphanies.
And then it's the same with this, where it's like it starts out he's trying to help the airlines and the pilots communicate better,
but it's really bad.
Then he tries to help one of the pilots with his love life.
Oh,
and then
man!
And it just keeps snowballing, and the final episode is just
the
insane.
whole Bill Gates impersonator.
So people actually compared. So yesterday was the air date of the finale. Okay. And I saw someone online compare it to Nathan. They said Nathan Fielder hasn't done anything this momentous since Finding Francis.
Yeah,
and it's at a whole other level.
Yeah,
we're not going to spoil the last episode for you, Alan, but you need to watch it as quickly as you can.
Do not pay any attention to the memes I've been posting in our chat.
You need to watch it as soon as comfortable.
There's only 6 episodes,
and they're all like most of them are half an hour anyway.
Yeah,
the last episode's an hour, but most of them are just half.
You can bag it out.
But also, they're very bingeable.
But also, they're very cringe. So Alan might have to take a break between episodes.
I'm like, do I throw them on my iPad and do them in the flight on Monday?
That's not a terrible idea.
Yes, it's 3 hours.
Actually, yes.
3 hours, and I'm like, do I just?
Yeah, that is possibly the best way to watch it.
But that is hilarious. Yes. Watching this on a plane, amazing.
I would say
somebody next to me watching, like, what are you watching? I'm like, I don't know.
It's about airline safety.
Don't know.
I was telling someone at work who has no idea about it. I'm like, it's about a guy who's trying to find a way to solve airline communication.
It is amazing.
We talked about it with the previous show, and it's like you can't explain it. You have to see it for yourself.
It has to be experienced.
That's probably the best way to watch it, and I highly encourage you to watch it on your flight.
Yeah.
Look, Nathan Fielder takes his stoic, unexpressive, cringe comedy to a complete other stratosphere. Someone compared him to Andy Kaufman, and then someone replied with, He achieved Kaufman status with Nathan For You. He has now left that completely and become something different.
The word genius gets thrown around a lot, but I think it applies.
It does.
It's just...
And once you've seen it, we'll be able to say things to you that will make you laugh your ass off, because it's like you can put pieces together.
Oh, yeah. Also, shout out to, his writers and producers and all the other crew who... not just help with coming up with all these crazy ideas, but executing them.
But, to keep it in context, Alan, we found out recently that they were still working on this season in February, logistically.
Yeah, there were moving parts that were not in place until quite
It was
late.
only 3 months ago that they were still trying to pull some of this off, and it had to air.
Shout out to HBO lawyers. And
the real heroes
and producers for allowing this to actually happen. Because I'm pretty comfortable that other networks would be never in history.
We're not spoiling anything, but man, the insurance company probably wanted to have a chat with him, and he was probably ghosting so many phone calls.
Yeah, I want to know what the budget was. I'm just so curious. Yeah, insane. Yeah, there's also a lot of themes that we were discussing off mic that we won't go into spoilers about. But same with the first season of the Rehearsal. Like Nathan finds things out, he's exploring things about himself, and it ends up being an exploration of him just as much as the other things in the show.
When it's finally over and you have all these little pieces that Nathan divulges about himself, you can probably put them together into a meaningful kind of
which is what the finale elevates the rest of the show. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's one of those things where it's like the first season has similar elements where it's like he wants to help people and he wants to understand other people and himself, and it's the same thing in this season. The whole thing is like an exercise on helping people and also self-meditate, like, self-understanding. And
also peak comedy.
It just so happens that he's also like the comedic goat.
Yeah.
I just think, like, considering some of the shenanigans he gets up to in this season, where does he go from here?
That's the thing, is he kept one-upping himself, and I'm like, there's no way he can
I thought we were at the top with the Evanescence episode.
Yeah.
That was so far from the top that I had no idea. Yeah.
He does a whole episode on Sully. Remember the pilot that landed the plane set? He does a whole episode on that, and it is amazing.
Yeah, amazing. Like, we were making jokes as we're watching the show episodes as they aired, and we were making jokes like he needs to be locked up, he must be stopped at all costs. He's just a madman, and the fact that he pulled this off.
I'm wondering, like, didn't he semi-recently visit some famous celebrity in prison with like a camera crew?
I think you were telling me about this.
Yeah, Amanda someone. It was like a fraudster kind of. It was a big deal, and he visited her in prison.
So
that might be for another project. Then.
Yeah, he plays the long game.
Yeah.
So do you remember? There's a sequence in the show where he talks about he wants people to take him seriously, and then it has a quick sizzle reel of things he's done.
Yeah.
Like promo material for the curse and whatnot.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how much of this has he been planning down the line? Like, if I come out looking like this or doing this, it might help for a project I have down the line.
That's the thing. Is
no way he's been visiting Elizabeth Holmes.
Yeah, that's the one.
It's Theranos lady. Oh my god.
Yeah, but.
So what's that for? Is that for the next season?
It could be the next season. Like, this is kind of like the weird shit that he gets up to that no one's like, what's he doing this for? No one knows. And he's like a genius.
He's going to learn about scamming and like, he's going to Ocean's 11 something, try to heist.
Someone online, I can't spoil it, but someone online being like, in relation to this season, I can't spoil it. It was like, imagine you're going about your day and you see Nathan Fielder in a specific place. You'd be like, oh no. I think it's like
so the next season's about prisons.
Yeah, scam artists like pretending to be other people, con artists.
It was something about like Rehearsal of Prison Reform or something. It'll start with like white collar prisons, and then he gets like to death row at the end of it.
Oh my god!
I mean, I guess that's where he goes.
He reverses getting a lethal injection or something.
Yeah, the end of the next season is just him getting executed.
They're like he's just like rehearsing.
Write this down. Something.
Is he just going to be rehearsing like executions on death row with people?
Nathan Fielder grapples with his fear of death.
Yes.
Oh my god!
He talks to a murderer like he feels how it feels to get murdered or something.
Oh.
But like, why is he visiting? Why is he visiting famous con women in prison?
We'll find out
with a film crew. Like, what's he doing?
Yeah, I mean,
look, like you said, the word genius gets thrown around.
Yeah,
he's either a genius or a deeply troubled man.
Why not both?
Yeah,
but I mean, they kind of go hand in hand.
Yeah, mad genius.
Watch the season.
There's got to be people doing a psychoanalysis on this man.
Oh, well, watch the season.
There's so many articles about every episode and every facet.
Don't be Googling him.
Yeah, you just got to watch it ASAP.
Watch it without Googling the man.
Yeah.
Stay off.
But even like we said, like we could tell you everything that happens and we could show you memes, but you got to see it to believe it. Like it's just so...
Because it's not just what happens, it's how it's presented.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How he frames it.
Just insane. And
it's definitely not second screen content.
No.
It's not sloppy.
Yeah, the Nathan was hinting at that before. It's like, this is, everything else on television, might be...
This is the Don Draper meme of TV.
Yeah. And especially, we've talked about this before because David Zaslav, who was, cancelling all the shows and content off and removing content off of HBO Max, which is then Max, and is now HBO Max again. And we were joking. It's like, well, this is technically reality documentary.
Is this fiction or documentary?
Yes, it's both. Yeah, exactly. So
ain't no CG here.
No.
Yeah.
Actually, that's exactly again coming back to the budget thing. I'm like, and
how
it's
does
in
he get away with
documentary, so it's like
how does he get away with it?
they
The man builds sets, he does things.
Yeah.
Ain't no CG.
we were talking too. I mean, we won't go into spoilers, but we were talking too. It's like I hope they keep that set and use it for good.
Well, it's alluded to in
because-
one of the episodes that he was doing stuff with it.
But I hope because a lot of the times after a production is done, they'll
Yeah.
destroy the set or dismantle it or whatever.
Well,
But
they didn't do that with some of the stuff from the first season because they brought it back for the second. So
Nate's Lizard Lounge,
Yeah.
so good, so good.
I guess
I like the fact that he just says in the driest voice possible, "I needed a bar, so
Yeah.
I bought my one," or whatever.
It's just he's just a genius. So insane. I just
yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Everyone needs to watch it.
Must be seen to be.
Have you
believed.
seen it? If you're listening, have you seen it? Let us know. What's your
Yeah.
favorite bit? What's or your most confusing episode? What are you alarmed by?
What are you not alarmed by?
Yeah.
Everything, everything's alarming.
Oh man,
Yeah.
we're just about out of time for tonight, everyone.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening. We're on all the platforms. Please rate us 5 stars. It helps us a lot.
Yeah.
You can catch us on all the socials at Tuesday Review AU on Facebook, Instagram, Newsmast, Blue Sky, pretty much these days.
Yeah. Instagram. Did you
Yeah.
say that?
Instagram,
Yeah.
Facebook,
Yeah.
Newsmast, and Blue Sky. They're the ones I post on
Yeah, yeah.
regularly. We're also on Substack as well, the tuesdayreview.substack.com. All the socials at Tuesday Review AU. We're on
YouTube.
YouTube at Tuesday Review AU. We're also on Letterboxd. I'm Nathan B_90.
I am channeldrifter.
I'm Alum20.
And I'm Come Tuesday.
Thanks for listening, everyone. We'll be back next week with more. Adios, cousins.